What's up, my mathletes? That's right, Mr. Muscarella coming at you. And we're going to take a look at reviewing a few things before we get into parallel and perpendicular lines for today. So check this out. Alright, now, just kind of reviewing a little bit of stuff here. 4 types of slope. Now, here are going to be the pictures that you should be familiar with for the slant of lines for linear equations. Now, if you got a positive slope, you know that's going to be slanted like that. Negative slopes, same kind of idea. You're going to have a downward trending kind of line. Now, zero slope and undefined, these are two that people will kind of get backwards sometimes, so just be careful. And the way I always remember it, Z is the beginning word for zero. And a zero slope, when you have a zero slope, that's going to be a horizontal line. So a line that goes across. And if you were to make the letter Z from that line, you could kind of like Zorro, boom, boom, you got that Z for zero slope. So a horizontal line has a zero slope. And all of the zero slope lines, they're all going to have an equation like y equals and then some number. And the number is just going to be that y-intercept wherever it crosses the x-axis or the y-axis at. Thinking ahead here. Now the y-axis is where that line will cross. So an undefined slope, slightly different, right? So that is going to instead cross somewhere on the x-axis. So that's going to be a line that crosses on the x-axis, and that'll be an undefined slope. And again, whatever that value is, wherever it crosses the x-axis, that's going to be the general equation for it. So it's going to be y equals and then or x equals and then some number. For positive slope and negative slope lines, if you were to write them in slope-intercept form, it'd be y equals mx plus b. For that equation. Same thing with a negative slope. It would just be y equals, you would have a negative slope, so negative mx plus b. So your slope would just be negative in those cases. But the two special cases of zero and undefined, that is where you got to be careful, because a lot of people get those two backwards. Now, some fun facts. Remember, parallel lines have these same slopes. So that means whatever the slope is for one line, its parallel line, same these. Perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes, and if I add this here and their product, so here's a way you can check yourself, product equals -1. So if you were to multiply a given slope and its reciprocal or its perpendicular slope together, you would answer be -1. So let's check it out here, right? We got our given slope of 1/3. That means parallel slope, same these. Given slope of -2, same thing, man. Parallel slope, same thing. 5/4 as a given slope, your parallel slope will be the same, and so it would be true for 0. If you have a given slope of 0, then you would also have a parallel slope, same slope. So for -4/25, same thing, -4/25. Now the perpendicular slope, so when you can look at either the given slope or the parallel slope, since they're both the same. If I wanted the perpendicular slope, I'm just going to take whatever that given slope is, and I'm going to take the negative reciprocal. So I look at the sign first, and given slope is 1/3, so I know my perpendicular slope is going to be the opposite side. That's what a negative reciprocal means. So negative means you switch the sign of it. And then 1/3, now this is kind of funky, because when you first do it, right, you flip that, and the reciprocal would be 3/1, but we don't write a 1 in the denominator, so you would actually write this as a slope of -3, not -3/1. Alright, and then let's take a look at -2. Now, if I were given a slope of -2, that's the same thing as -2/1, right? So when I want to take the negative reciprocal, so if I have the sign is already negative, when I take the opposite of that, that'll be positive. Then I flip the fraction, so my negative reciprocal slope will be 1/2. So my perpendicular slope, 1/2, if my given slope is -2. If I have 5/4, this one's already a fraction, so I just flip the fraction, right? And that'll be 4/5. And then the opposite of something that's positive will be negative. Now here's one that's a little dope right here, right? You gotta be careful. If I have a given slope of 0, so let's think about this graphically right here for a second. If I have a given slope of 0, so say we got a nice little horizontal line, because we know that slope is 0. If I want something perpendicular, it's going to have to be a vertical line. And we know all vertical lines have an equation of x equals some number. But if I want the slope of any vertical line is going to be undefined. So any vertical line has that undefined slope. All right, so the perpendicular slope, if you're given a slope of 0, would be undefined. And then lastly, we take a look at our given slope of negative 4/25. So again, we flip signs and make the fraction the reciprocal. So that'll end up with 25 over 4 would be the perpendicular slope. Alright, that's it. Pretty straightforward stuff. Now we got a whole bunch of examples coming at you, so make sure you come back after you've got this chart correctly filled out and catch up with those other ones. I'll see you guys in a little bit. Peace out.